Shared story number 41, Anansi the Spider. Green words: spider, east, delighted, could, waste, feast, would, another, village, peanuts, should, west, begin, might, tide, yank, bright, tightly, vine, yams, meanwhile, body, teeny, today, daylight, fight, red words, child, no, both, idea, coming. A long time ago, spiders had no waist. Anansi was the fattest spider of them all. He ate all the time. He looked like a football. This tale tells how Anansi got his thin waist. One day, Anansi went to the forest with his children, Osa and Iba. They saw a child running. He was running to the east village. "Why are you running?" asked Anansi. "I am invited to a big feast," yelled the child. "When is the feast?" asked Anansi. But the child was gone. When the three spiders were alone, Anansi sniffed. He could smell chicken with peanuts. It was coming from the east village. Anansi was delighted. He said, "I would like to go to the feast. I should go, but I don't know when it is. I could go if..." Anansi stopped. All of a sudden, Anansi saw another child. He was running to the west village. "Why are you running?" asked Anansi. "I am invited to a big feast," yelled the child. "When is the feast?" asked Anansi. But the child was gone. When the three spiders were alone, Anansi sniffed. He could smell hot yams and fish. It was coming from the west village. He said, "I would like to go to the feast. I should go, but I don't know when it is. I could go if..." Anansi stopped. Anansi's children said, You were not invited to these feasts. You don't know when the feasts begin." Anansi said to his children, "Be quiet. I could still go. Let me think." Anansi sat on the path to think. How could he find out the time each feast began? He might miss all the chicken, yams, and fish. Then he had a bright idea. Anansi said, "I am in between the east village and the west village. I could go to both feasts." "How?" asked his children. Anansi grabbed a vine and tied it tightly around his middle. He tossed one end of the vine to Osa and said, "Go to the east village. When it is time to eat, yank the vine. Then I will come to the feast." Anansi tied a second vine tightly around his waist. He tossed one end of the vine to Iba. Then he said, "Take this end of the vine. Go to the west village. When it is time to eat, yank the vine. Then I will come to the feast." Osa ran with the end of the vine to the east village. Iba ran with the end of the other vine to the west village. Meanwhile, Anansi rested in the forest so he could eat a lot. When daylight faded and night fell, both feasts began. Anansi's children yanked their vines at the same time. They yanked the two vines tighter and tighter. Osa yanked with all her might from the east village. Iba yanked with all his might from the west village. The vines pulled tighter and tighter. Anansi could not fight the vines. Stop! Stop! He yelled with all his might, but his children were far away and could not hear him. The vines pulled until Anansi's waist was thin. His head was still fat. His body was still fat. But his waist in between was teeny and thin. And this is why today all spiders have a thin waist. And at the end of the story, there are several questions for you to ask your child at home. Thank you.